What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here, right here on the Broken Havoc podcast in a different location. Not in my usual setting where I do my reviews. I'm currently on vacation, and for the next 2 weeks, this is where I'm going to be filming at. So for the next week and a half, I'm going to be doing my reviews in this area right here. But I'm here to review SmackDown from July 2nd, 2021. What are my overall thoughts on this show? This was not the best show, especially coming off the heels of last week. And I didn't watch SmackDown last week, but I did know what happened. Of course, Edge came back and attacked. He instantly attacked Roman Reigns. They both brawled, and then all of a sudden Jimmy Uso came in for the save and just attacked Jimmy. But of course, Edge is going to be facing Roman Reigns at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Of course, the first pay-per-view when fans are back in attendance for WWE. Of course, AEW is going to be going back on the road this coming Wednesday for Road Rager, which I'm extremely excited about. It's going to be awesome to see what goes down. But yeah, I mean, of course, Edge kicks off the show. Usually, every time when Edge kicks off the show, I mean, like, Edge is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I don't have I stated before that Edge was like my favorite wrestler of all time, but I'm going to be 100% honest. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, mainly because of the fact that, like, it's hard to pick a favorite, but I grew up with Edge when I was little. Granted, I became a fan, like, right at the tail end of his first run in his career, but I was watching a lot of his old matches when I first became a fan. I was a really big fan of Edge. I mean, just because of the fact that he knew how to generate heat, and he was always awesome at promos, whether he was a babyface or a heel. Those are one of the things that really got the attention for me when it came to Edge. But he kicks off the show, of course, coming off the heels of the ending of SmackDown last week. So he talks about WrestleMania and talks about how, WrestleMania, he wanted WrestleMania to be like his story coming full circle. Of course, he retired back in 2011 after WrestleMania 27. He retired as the world champion. Of course, not as the World Heavyweight Champion, not the WWE Champion. This is when WWE had two separate titles. I mean, they do have two separate titles today, but back in the day it was the WWE title and the World title. Now it's the WWE and Universal title. But he talks about WrestleMania and says it was supposed to be his culmination of a 10-year story. He says that he envisioned it and he knew it would happen. He says it didn't happen, and he says he took some time and he started to roll the match back in his brain. And it says he usually never watches the match back, but in this particular match he did. He talks about Daniel Bryan, how Daniel Bryan impacted his loss, and talks about Jimmy Uso. Talks about how he could complain all of these things and would be justified, and says that 2006 Edge would, which I agree, 2006 Edge would just go rampant with his girlfriend Lita, literally both complain in front of the GM, just talking about what's going on. But then he talks about, says that 2021, there's always an excuse, and says that he battled a lot of obstacles, says that he does not stop, and says he knows he can beat Roman Reigns. After that, he says that what happens after this is that he plays a photo of what happened in the match with Roman Reigns. Of course, he puts him in a submission hold with, I believe it was the Bar, at WrestleMania, and he just played that clip, and it plays a factor in the end of the show when it comes to Jey Uso, because Roman Reigns is not on the show tonight. So no Roman Reigns, but we did get Paul Heyman and Jimmy Uso. So he played that photo, and after that, he says Roman knows deep down that Edge is the guy that has his number, and says that he's inevitable. Then after that, he says he's going to beat him no matter what, and then he says he's going to be the Universal Champion after that, and the end of that promo. So that was basically a gist of what he said in the opening segment on SmackDown. What are my thoughts? I actually really enjoyed this segment. This was a really good segment. Again, Edge is always awesome on the microphone when it comes to whoever he's feuding with. I mean, I remember back in the days of he was feuding with John Cena back in 2006. Those were actually one of the first feuds I was ever introduced to. Now, granted, I first became a fan in 2010, as I said, but one of the first DVDs I ever had was Edge versus John Cena, and basically it didn't show all their matches from 2006. The only matches that they showed was the triple threat match with Big Show and Edge and Cena at Mania 25, and their last man standing match at Backlash 2009. But it showed a video clip of all of their past matches. Of course, the TLC match at Unforgiven 2006. Of course, their match at SummerSlam, which led to that match in Toronto at Unforgiven. But enough of me talking about that. But overall thoughts, I really enjoyed this opening segment with Edge. Edge, I mean, yes, people say, oh, he's a veteran and, you know, all that stuff. But people need to realize that Edge retired without wanting to retire. He was forced to retire. So I wouldn't necessarily say, I mean, he's a legend. Of course, he's a Hall of Famer, but like I don't think he's one of those legends like Goldberg, because in Goldberg's case, Goldberg just comes in and instantly takes the spot away from the younger guys, or the current guys, I should say. He buries guys like, you know, like the Fiend Bray Wyatt. You guys remember that? And, you know, he instantly becomes champion for no reason. When it comes to Edge, I feel like there's a full story when it comes to Edge, whoever he's feuding with. With Goldberg, I mean, Goldberg just comes in there and just buries them out of nowhere with no story at all. Just like literally in the go-home show before a pay-per-view, he would just show up, do a face-off, and that's it. That's basically Goldberg. And Edge is a different story, and I really like the fact that they're actually playing out the story when it comes to Edge and Roman Reigns, and I'm really excited to see their one-on-one match happen at Money in the Bank in front of fans. It's going to be really epic to see. I mean, the triple threat match was amazing as it is, and of course that ending where Roman Reigns stacked both Daniel Bryan and Edge. I mean, Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns had a phenomenal match on SmackDown a couple months ago. Who's to say that Roman and Edge are going to have a phenomenal match at the pay-per-view? I definitely think they're going to really steal the show in that match. Of course, Paul Heyman is backstage with Jimmy Uso, and basically Jimmy Uso just cuts a promo on Roman Reigns and all that stuff. He says Roman is family and says he got his back just like Roman got his back. So yeah, they're building up the whole Jimmy Uso calling out Edge thing, which doesn't turn out well for Jimmy Uso at the end. And, of course, Jey Uso is not in the predicament. So, who knows what's going to happen. Rick Boogs introduces Shinsuke Nakamura. And, of course, as I stated in my previous SmackDown reviews, Pat McAfee's like, besides Roman Reigns is the number one good thing, on not only on SmackDown, but the entire WWE. He's like the best thing, but Pat McAfee is like the second best thing on SmackDown, in my opinion. Pat McAfee, of course, one of the things I like about Pat McAfee is the fact that he's always energetic on commentary, and he's not in change, as a lot of people say, and he's not like forced to say things that usually normal people wouldn't say. He's the type of commentator who just will go all out and just doesn't care about what he does. He'll just literally mark out of nowhere, and this is what he does every time when Shinsuke Nakamura comes out. He just dances out of nowhere, and that's what I like about Pat McAfee. Of course, we got a tag match. Of course, WWE loves doing tag match, but not in the way you like it. Just random tag matches that are booked out of nowhere, and some of them, or hell, I should say most of them, can be rematches. So we got Shinsuke Nakamura and Big E versus Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin. Of course, they're playing the storyline that Baron Corbin lost his freaking crown, which I think is really stupid and I think embarrassing, considering the fact that Baron Corbin won King of the Ring, but I crapped all over it a lot of times, mainly because of the fact that to WWE in 2021, they don't care a lot about the King of the Ring tournament. I say that because nowadays, if you win the King of the Ring tournament, all you win is a cape and a crown. Now, granted, the name is called King of the Ring, but it should be more than that. You know, back in the day, they used to have they did award a crown and a chair and a cape back in the day, but like, you know, in the beginning of the 2000s, of course, you had people like Brock Lesnar win in 2002, the King of the Ring tournament, and he eventually faced The Rock at SummerSlam. You should have a King of the Ring tournament like that. And I don't think they do it like that. I feel like they use the King of the Ring in a different manner. And it's in a manner that I don't think a lot of people like, in my opinion. I feel like they should change up the whole formula of the King of the Ring and have it. And a lot of other podcasters have said this. I mean, you know, every other podcasters have said this. They should move it to SummerSlam. Well, not move it to SummerSlam, but have it be, you know, a build up to SummerSlam. Whoever wins the King of the Ring should face the champion of whichever brand they are in at SummerSlam, and that's what they should do. And I wholeheartedly agree. But WWE, I mean, when it comes to their booking, they use the King of the Ring as a comedy joke. Baron Corbin, or King Corbin, I should say, was not my cup of tea. I didn't like him as a heel. Baron Corbin was great when Baron Corbin first came into the main roster back in 2016. When he won the Money in the Bank, there was a lot of promise for him to be a main event guy, but ever since, he became Constable Corbin in 2018, nobody watched Raw at that time. People still don't watch Raw. Not only that, I mean, he became King Corbin. He was even worse. I think the whole King Corbin gimmick was unbelievable. And I mean that literally. Like, I did not believe what he was saying. He's that type of wrestler that he's the type of heel that would not get legit heel heat. He would get go away heat. And I feel like that's what a lot of wrestlers need to realize. They need to get heel heat. If they're heels, they need to get legit heel heat instead of that go away heat, because go away heat doesn't have fans pay to go to the events to see you get your ass kicked. If you're a true heel, you need to make the fans hate you so much that they will pay money to get your ass kicked. That's what a heel should do. But yeah, of course, we got the video package of Baron Corbin about losing his crown. He's basically depressed. So the match starts. Nakamura and Cruz start. Both lock up. We got a side headlock by Nakamura. Cruz takes down Nakamura after that. Nakamura fights back and works and hits on the elbow. Big E tags in. He works on Cruz in the corner. We get an abdominal stretch by Big E. We get a cover and a near fall. Corbin with the clothesline on Big E on the outside. Corbin works on Big E back from the commercial break. We get an elbow by Corbin. We get a cover and a near fall. Cruz tags in, begins to work on Big E after that. We get a drop kick by Apollo Cruz. We get an enziguri by Cruz on Big E. And then Big E takes Cruz out. After that, Corbin tags in, works on Big E, slams Big E. We get a cover into near fall when Nakamura comes in. Then we get a German suplex on Nakamura by Apollo Cruz, my bad. Cruz and Nakamura fight it out on the outside. We get a couple elbows by Baron Corbin on Big E in the ring. Then all of a sudden, Rick Boogs out of nowhere announces that his Mercedes G-Wagon is getting towed. And then Big E hits the big ending on Baron Corbin and Nakamura. Him and Nakamura win the match. What are my thoughts? It was your typical tag team match on a SmackDown episode. Really, to me, not important. They're playing the whole thing with Baron Corbin being depressed. And what are my thoughts? I mean, again, for me, it's non-believable, or unbelievable, I should say, considering the fact that we all know that crown does not cost $12,000 or whatever amount that they said on television. That crown literally is probably just a cheap-ass crown bought at Walmart. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. But I mean, they're doing this whole depressed thing with King Corbin or Baron Corbin. There was a trademark that was filed by WWE called Happy Corbin. And if that is the route that they're going for, I mean, like, really, is that the best you got? I mean, by this point, you're making your show a comedy instead of an actual wrestling show. So good on them, right? All right, enough talking. We got Bayley and Bianca Belair, a face-to-face segment. So Bayley comes out and says that she's not the type of person to brag and say, she told you so, but she told you so. Your typical heel does that all the time. Says her loss to Bianca Belair was a fluke. Again, your typical heel says that. Talks about how she pinned Bianca last week, of course, in that mixed tag match with her and Seth Rollins versus Cesaro and Bianca Belair. My bad. Says that mentally she is weak, and says that Bianca better get her head in the game because in 2 weeks they are performing in front of fans. Of course, fans are coming back next week, next Friday night. Says that it would be sad for her to fall apart to all of the fans who worship her because Bianca ain't nothing, as Bayley says. Then Bianca Belair comes out of nowhere. Says Bayley needs a good crack in that mouth, and says that she had this and keeps beating her over and over for the title. And she says that Bayley's obsessed with her. Both go back and forth verbally after that. And then after that, what happens is that it says that there's one way for this to end, and that is a match one-on-one with Bayley and Bianca at Money in the Bank. So, but it's not going to be any match. It's going to be an I Quit match. So we're going to have an I Quit match with Bayley and Bianca Belair at Money in the Bank. And then Bayley says after that, She has never quit in anything in her life, and then says that she will probably quit SmackDown or WWE. That being Bianca would quit. That's what Bayley would say. Or that's what Bayley said, my bad. She wouldn't be surprised if Bianca said I quit, and says that she has no chance of winning this match. Bayley accepts, and then after that, Bianca laughs and says that she's so excited for her to say I quit, and then the segment ends. Overall thoughts, this was not that bad of a segment in my opinion. Of course, in the beginning, Bayley says your typical heel stuff, how, oh, this match was a fluke, all that stuff. I mean, your typical normal heel. It can literally be any heel. Even if it's like a jobber heel, they would say that. But I mean, near the end of the segment, I thought it was really enjoyable. I liked the fact that they booked an I Quit match as most likely the blow off, and then we're going to get the match with Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks at the SummerSlam pay-per-view, of course, happening August 21st at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. So I'm going to be excited to see that. SummerSlam is going to be a stacked card. It's going to be one of the best shows of 2021, if not probably better than WrestleMania. Double or Nothing, I don't know about that, but I mean, we're going to be getting Roman Reigns versus John Cena, and that's a match that I definitely want to see. We've seen it before, but like I think it'd be really awesome to see, heel Roman Reigns just demolish John Cena, because that's exactly what's going to happen. John Cena ain't winning number 17. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, but he's not winning number 17. But it's going to be really awesome to see that. But with Bianca Belair and Bayley at Money in the Bank, of course, not inside Hell in a Cell. I'm still so stupid. At Money in the Bank in an I Quit match, I think it's going to be a really awesome match. I mean, their match at Hell in a Cell was not that bad. I mean, it was the opener, but like it was not that bad of a Hell in a Cell match. I actually enjoyed the Hell in a Cell match later on throughout the match. I mean, the beginning, of course, it started out a little bit slow, but later on it became much better. It was not a bad match, though. I will say that. But yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to be happening at Money in the Bank. I think it's going to be a good match, and that's my thoughts on that. Paul Heyman backstage, of course, Jimmy Uso comes in. He asks for Roman Reigns and says that Edge is waiting to run all over him, and says that he is waiting for Edge, and says that in the main event, he's going to call out Edge tonight. What are my thoughts? Of course, that final segment on SmackDown was really awesome to see. But we're gonna wait till that. We're gonna wait till we get there. But of course, Roman Reigns. Jimmy Uso is basically playing like the victim here in a way. I'm saying, because he's expecting Roman to come out, but of course, in typical heel fashion, Roman does not come out. But we'll talk about that later on. Now we got one of the best matches, if not the best match of the night: Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn in a Last Man Standing match. Now, when it comes to Money in the Bank qualifying matches on both Raw and SmackDown, I thought the way that they set up the qualifying matches, on Raw it was fine, but on SmackDown it was really stupid, especially for the women. The way that they set it up was the fact that on the Raw side of things, when it came to the women, is that they would both be put in tag matches, but on the SmackDown side, they would just name drop any wrestler to be put in the women's Money in the Bank match. And for the men as well, like they had qualifying matches on Raw, but on SmackDown they had like one qualifying match like last week. And in this point, it's a Last Man Standing match. That's a qualifying match. Not to say that this match was bad. I'm just saying, like, why would you have a qualifying match as a Last Man Standing match? Usually a Last Man Standing match is a blow off for a particular feud, but apparently this is the blow off with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. But I definitely expect WWE to book this match once again, because we've seen it a gajillion times down in NXT, and we've seen it a gajillion times on the main roster. But the way that they set up the qualifiers for the Money in the Bank, especially this year on both shows, was completely logical. At first, I thought, okay, they're doing qualifying matches when it comes to singles matches, but later on, you're like, wait, this makes absolutely no sense. But I'll get to that later. So the match starts. Both brawl. We get repeated kicks by Owens. We get a cannonball in the corner by Owens. Owens works on Zayn on the outside. Zayn fights back. Both fight it out. Zayn is about to put Owens through the announce table, but Zayn throws Owens to the table. Chop by Zayn in the ring back from commercial break. Drives Sami Zayn to the post. Zayn gets up at 7. We get a couple right hands by Zayn. Both exchange right hands. Owens grabs a table. He stacks 2 tables on top of each other, tries to superplex Zayn through those tables. Zayn begins to fight back. Zayn drops Owens on the ropes. Then he continues to work on Owens. Owens grabs the nose of Zayn after that. Both exchange shots. Then we get an exploder suplex after that by Zayn. And then Zayn and Owens are on the top. Zayn tries to superplex Owens, but Owens counters into a superplex from the other side. Owens gets up at 5, and Zayn gets up at 7. Of course, this is last man standing, so there's no pinfalls or submissions. Kick on Zayn in the corner. We get a super kick by Owens in the corner. We get a couple chops by Owens. Owens is on the top. Zayn escapes. He pushes Owens through both tables, and then Owens gets back up at 9. Zayn throws the top of the the top of the announce table on Owens. Then he gets driven face first on the ring post. Owens drives Zayn through the barricade. Both go to the apron. Then he hits a snapdragon, I should say. It looked like a snapdragon on Owens, or an alternate version of that. Owens gets up at 7. Then we get a haluva kick by Zayn on Owens in the corner. Then Owens after that gets up at 7. Then after that, Zayn hits his second haluva kick, then a third on Owens in the corner. Owens rolls out of the ring and stands up at 9 after that. That was actually a pretty mark-out moment. Zayn runs into a super kick by Owens after that, then hits a pump-up powerbomb, that being Kevin Owens. Zayn gets up at 8. Then we get a stunner by Owens and a powerbomb on the apron. Then Owens wins the match, and he will be part of Money in the Bank. What are my thoughts on this match? Of course, this was a really good match. Of course, we had that spot where Kevin Owens got sent through both tables, which I really enjoyed that spot. That was a really awesome spot to see. Of course, if this was another last man standing match, for example, like in an alternate universe, or like if other wrestlers back in the day like wrestled the last man standing match, I feel like the ending, or the finish, I should say, and the finish of that match would be the person going through both tables. But instead, of course, we had, Owens just getting the strength at the end and getting the win. Owens will be at Money in the Bank. Do I think he will win? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to be seeing the match anytime soon when it comes to Roman Reigns and Roman Reigns, I should say. But I will say this: this was a really good match. Of course, in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, we got Ricochet, Riddle, John Morrison, Drew McIntyre, Big E, and Kevin Owens. I don't know who's going to win that. It's a situation that, a lot of fans are probably going to be like, probably Drew McIntyre or probably Riddle. Who knows what's going to happen? But I don't think Kevin Owens is going to be winning the Money in the Bank, considering the fact that we already had Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens feud before. But I'm just saying, like, I don't think he's going to be winning the Money in the Bank. But it's going to be great to see what he does in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Of course, we got a backstage interview with Edge. Says that he's basically shoving... he says that he knows he's getting tripped, and just basically talks about Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso and all that stuff. Rick Boogs is backstage with Baron Corbin, and he's basically shoving everything down Corbin's throat, considering the fact that, Corbin lost all of his money and all that stuff. So, yeah, he is, he's sad Corbin, and probably in the future he's going to become Happy Corbin as WWE trademarked. So, yeah, be on the lookout for Happy Corbin, guys. All right. Sonya Deville. Now, I stated this earlier in my review. I do not like the way the qualifiers for every division has been set up for the Money in the Bank. On Raw, you got singles matches for the men and qualifying matches. Then on Raw, you also got the women being in tag team matches for the qualifiers. And then on SmackDown, you just have qualifying matches for the men, and the women are just instantly just getting put in the match with no qualifier match whatsoever. So there's less TV time for the women to wrestle, which I think is really dumb. But Sonya Deville announces the second competitor, and the second competitor is Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega, of course, coming back from WWE after that whole thing when it came to the ban of Twitch and every third-party platform and all that stuff. She was one of those people. Hell, she even tweeted, "I support unionization," and that tweet got deleted. But what are my thoughts on Zelina Vega returning to the WWE? I'm going to say I'm quite disappointed, but at the same time, look, I'm disappointed considering the fact that, I expected Thea Trinidad, which is Zelina Vega's name outside of the WWE. I expected Thea Trinidad to appear in AEW and most likely be, of course, the promo for Andrade El Idolo. But we're not going to get that. of course, with the whole thing with, WWE and stuff, I thought she was still on bad terms with the company. But no, apparently not. I mean, she signed a deal, so hey. Am I disappointed? Yeah, I'm disappointed because I expected her to go to AEW, but I will say this, though. It's her decision, and we can't judge that. We can't judge her decision. Do I think AEW would have been better off for her career? Yes, but at the same time, you got to realize it's her decision. Who knows? We'd probably make the same mistake. I don't even know. But I don't know what I'm talking about. But like seriously, like it's her decision. I do think she would have been better off in AEW, but hey, leave it as is. It's her decision. Whatever. So Zelina after that cuts a promo and says that it will be a pleasure to grab that briefcase, and says that when she wins it, she will cash it in and will either be Raw, SmackDown, or NXT Women's Champion. Wow, NXT is actually acknowledged as a third brand. I don't watch NXT as much, but hey, it's at least acknowledged as a third brand. After that, Liv Morgan comes out and says that she belongs in the match and says that Vega did not deserve to be in the match. And then after that, she slaps Zelina Vega, and then we get a match between Zelina Vega and Carmella. What are my thoughts on this match? This was an okay match. It was not the best match in the world. It was not the best match, but not Carmella, my bad. Zelina Vega versus Liv Morgan, my bad. I don't know why I put Carmella there. But it was not the best match, but it was okay. But the ending result, well, I'll talk about the ending result later on. So in the beginning of the match, Vega works on Morgan throughout the beginning. We get a cover into a near fall. We get a clothesline by Vega, and then we cover into a near fall after that. Sends Morgan into the corner. We get a running knee by Vega. Cover into a near fall. Then we get a cover again and a near fall. Roll up by Morgan. Then we get a near fall. Roll up by Vega and a near fall. And after that, Morgan's foot was on the rope. Then Morgan rolls up Vega again, and Morgan wins the match. What are my thoughts on this booking decision? I thought that this booking decision made absolutely no sense considering the fact that Zelina Vega was announced to be part of the Money in the Bank. So if you wanted to make her look a little bit stronger, you would have her beat Liv Morgan and probably make the scenario of, hey, she beat Liv Morgan. Maybe, she can win this ladder match if she plays her cards right. But no, instead, they have Liv Morgan beat her. Nothing against Liv Morgan. I think she's great. I just, this booking decision makes absolutely no sense. Why would you have Liv Morgan beat a wrestler who was just announced for your Money in the Bank ladder match? I don't know. It's WWE. They don't care. But it is what it is. All right. Seth Rollins backstage with Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville. He introduces himself even though Pearce and Deville knows who he is. He complained that Edge had to win the match. He complained that Edge had the match with Roman and he did not. Says that they were inclined to agree, and then Pierce says that Edge deserves the opportunity because he won the Royal Rumble. Okay, first off, that was in January. The Royal Rumble begins in January, which also begins the road to WrestleMania, and WrestleMania happens in the beginning of April. So why are you giving that reason as why you're giving the match to Edge? Because what? He won the Royal Rumble? He already got his opportunity. You gotta be more logical when it comes to stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? And people say, oh, but a lot of casuals don't care about the logic. Well, I do think some of them do. I do think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't watch WWE nowadays is considering the fact that they don't use logic. They gotta use logic. You have to use logic when it comes to things and make things a little more realistic. That's the issue with WWE. And after that, Rollins says that he deserves the opportunity because he's Seth freaking Rollins. Pierce states that Edge has all the accolades that Rollins does, quote unquote, and says that he did win the Rumble match, which makes absolutely no sense. He had his match at Mania, even though it was a triple threat. So Sonya says that the decision has been made that he can be in the Money in the Bank match if he can beat Cesaro next week. Even though we've seen that match a gajillion times, I'm not gonna lie, I'll be excited to see Cesaro versus Seth Rollins next week. I think it's gonna be a great match. Well, technically this week because I'm filming the week of. But I do think it's going to be a great match. They always put great matches. But, I mean, we've seen this match so many different times. It makes no sense. So then Rollins, after that, is about to, literally just go ballistic, but laughs and then walks away. So he does his evil Rollins laugh and walks away. What are my thoughts on this segment? I mean, a lot of the stuff that Adam Pearce said made absolutely no sense. But, again, what do you expect? It's WWE. They make a lot of illogical things, but we got to be used to that, right? Even though they shouldn't do it at all. But it is what it is. Constantly say that, man. I got to stop saying that. Next match, we got Otis versus Angelo Dawkins. I mean, these guys have been feuding. Otis and Chad Gable and the Street Profits have been feuding for like how many weeks now? I mean, like nobody cares, in my opinion. Nobody cares about this feud at all. Otis has been main rosterized, as I like to say. And yeah, was this a match that I cared about? Absolutely not. Both fight it out. We got a spinning elbow by Dawkins. We got a clothesline by Otis. Sends Otis into the corner. Sends him again in the corner. We get a splash by Otis, and then we get a second splash by Otis and wins the match. So he basically annihilated Angelo Dawkins, or squashed him, I should say. If it was a squash, he'd probably get no offense. You know what I mean? But hey, it is what it is. What do I care about this match? Absolutely not. This match. I mean, we've seen a variation of these types of matches regarding the Street Profits and Chad Gable and Otis like many different times. Do fans care? Nobody cares about this. All right, we got our main event segment. It was not a match, but it was a segment. Jimmy Uso calling out Edge. So he asks Edge where he's at because he's right here, and says that there's no Roman Reigns, and says that he does not need Roman Reigns because he can handle him all by himself, and says Edge is not man enough to stand in the ring with Jimmy Uso. And then Edge, after that, comes out and says Roman is using Jimmy like his whole family. Says that what happened, like he literally asks Jimmy Uso what happened to Nobody's Bitch, which I agree. What happened to that shirt? I said in previous reviews that shirt would sell out. I mean, I hope it did, but like, I mean, I was a big fan of that shirt. Where is that shirt? Nobody's Bitch. He hasn't been wearing that shirt ever since he debuted with it. In my opinion, I think he was wearing it in other episodes of SmackDown, but I don't remember. But like, what happened to that shirt? So it says that it's not a trap for him. It says that it's a trap for Jimmy. And then after that, as soon as Edge comes in the ring, you see Jimmy Uso just looking around to see if Roman's going to come out of nowhere. But what happens is that he goes after and attacks Jimmy Uso. And then after that, what happens is he sends Edge to the corner. We got a super kick by Jimmy, sends Edge to the steel steps. We get repeated rights by Jimmy, and then Edge with a big boot. Repeated rights by Edge again. Then he applies the crossface submission, or he applies the same submission hold that he put on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania with the bar from the chair. And that's what happens at the end. And he spears Jimmy Uso and then grabs a chair and then places the chair out and drives it to the face of Jimmy Uso. And the show ends. So things are coming full circle when it comes to SmackDown, the beginning segment and the ending segment of SmackDown, which I really enjoyed. What are my thoughts on this particular segment? I really enjoyed this segment. I think it was really fun to watch. Of course, we got that sadistic side of Edge, even though he's the babyface in this particular story. Coming into WrestleMania, he started out as the babyface, but then went little by little heelish, and he looked a lot like he was a heel in that scenario. But in this scenario, even though he's doing a lot of quote-unquote heel tactics, he's still the babyface in this feud, and Roman is the heel. Who do I think is going to be going over in this match at Money in the Bank? It's going to be Roman Reigns. I don't see Edge winning the title anytime soon. It has to be that way. The only thing people are wondering is who's going to take the belt off of Roman Reigns. That's an issue because there's not a lot of people that are on Roman Reigns' level. Not only on Raw, but on SmackDown. Do I think Roman Reigns should defeat Roman Reigns? Do I think Drew McIntyre should defeat Roman Reigns? No. I think it will be one of the most predictable things WWE has ever done because I think they're booking Roman Reigns like they usually book their top babyface throughout their history. Make him look like Superman. The problem with that is that if you do it that way, you constantly overexpose them. And then once you overexpose them, fans are going to start to get tired of that particular babyface. And that's why a lot of fans turned on guys like John Cena, because John Cena constantly was booked the exact same way, and fans were starting to get tired of it. And then he started to get that mixed reaction. You gotta book your babyfaces strong. You know what I'm saying? And with Drew McIntyre, if he eventually wins the title again, I do think that a lot of fans are going to eventually turn on Drew McIntyre unless he turns heel. He turning the babyface heel is like the plan B, and that's what it was with Roman Reigns. And it's a shame that it had happened in an empty arena because they should have turned Roman Reigns years ago. But hey, Roman Reigns is doing the best work of his career, as I stated earlier. So, yeah. but I definitely think Roman is going over. My scenario of who's going to take the belt off of Roman, I was going with a Finn Balor because of the fact that, he never lost the Universal title, and you could tell that story about him. Granted, they did tell that story with Brock Lesnar when he feuded with Brock Lesnar in the beginning of 2019, but I do think that, if you play that story out with Roman Reigns, and not only that, Finn Balor actually beat Roman Reigns clean. If you guys remember that first Raw after the draft back in 2016, he did beat Roman Reigns clean. So you can also tell that story and literally build up Finn Balor once you bring him up, because the draft is coming up. If Finn Balor gets drafted to SmackDown, which I do not want him to get drafted to Raw, because he's currently in NXT, but he did lose that match to Karrion Kross a couple weeks ago on NXT. If you call up Finn Balor and you just build him up through the rest of 2021 and then have him win the Rumble and then just constantly build him up, just build him up as this big force that, will definitely dethrone Roman Reigns, I definitely think fans will get along with that. And that's what WWE needs right now. They need a babyface that fans can get along with. And I don't think right now they have that. So in my opinion, who do I think is going to dethrone Roman Reigns? Finn Balor. I honestly believe that Finn Balor is the guy to do it, mainly because of the fact that, he won the Universal title. Granted, fun fact, I was actually there when he won the Universal title. I was there when they revealed it, and I was there when he won it. Of course, those were both of the same night, SummerSlam 2016. That was my first wrestling event that I attended, but Finn Balor's the guy, in my opinion. I do think if WWE plays their cards right and actually books Finn Balor right and just keeps on winning his matches and winning his matches, I think they got a strong main event for next year's WrestleMania. Actually, I don't know about that. When it comes to WrestleMania, that's the tough one, mainly because of the fact that there's a match most likely happening with The Rock, and that has a story behind it too. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for WWE to do it, because they got WrestleMania in Hollywood in 2 years, but it was originally slated to be next year. But I don't know. But I do definitely think that Finn Balor's the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns. That's just me. Like, I would literally book Roman to just annihilate everybody and literally have him win the Rumble, continue to annihilate everybody. Have the slow teasers of him, hey, I'm going to beat you for the title. Just have that slow teasers, kind of like what Sting did with Hogan. The only difference is that the match is actually good at WrestleMania, besides the match with Hogan and Sting at Starrcade, which ended in a freaking botch. Stuff like that. You gotta just play your cards right. And I don't think WWE's doing that. But it is what it is. I think Finn Balor's the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns. But yeah, that's my SmackDown review. That's my SmackDown review from July 2nd, 2021. Be on the lookout for my Raw review, which is gonna be uploaded tomorrow, and also Dynamite on Thursday, and most likely SmackDown on Saturday. So, yeah, it's gonna be a crazy hell of a few weeks when it comes to wrestling, because both companies are going back on the road, so that's gonna be a good thing to see. But yeah, that was my SmackDown review. Overall thoughts on the show. I thought it was an okay show, not the best. The only good thing about the show, or the only two good things, was Jimmy Uso and Edge, and the Last Man Standing match. Those were the only two good things that happened on SmackDown. So it is what it is. That was my SmackDown review. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. Follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram. That is shown on the screen. And this is Broken Havoc from the Broken Havoc podcast. Signing out.